depending on where you are, of course. I am running a little late today. I apologize, but I'm here. I made it. Let me go live on Instagram really quickly. Okie dokie. Good morning. Good morning. Let me see. I need to upload a photo. I'm sorry, y'all. I try to do too much, is what happens. And then, but I do want to upload a photo to show you guys because I did some join without microphone. Yes, please. I did some prep. Whoops. So I want to show you guys what our piece looked like before I did my prep, and I forgot to upload that photograph. So give me 1 second, and I will get that uploaded. Good morning and welcome to Quick Crafts with Royce. If you are new here, my name is Royce Hunt Bell. I'm the founder, owner, and operator of Recycled Treasures. And I've decided in order to jumpstart our creativity for 2026 that I'm going to meet you guys here every morning or noon or afternoon, whatever it is for you, at 11 a.m. Pacific Standard Time on YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram. So we can do a craft together. And I'm saying a quick craft, but that has not been what's happening. So we're just going to say we're going to do a craft from start to finish each day. How about that? So if you guys are curious about what we've done already, you can catch the replays. If you go to YouTube, I do have a playlist with all of the videos that are listed there. And I encourage you guys to visit my community on YouTube, where you can see photographs that I posted of past projects, and you guys can also post yourself inside the community, and that way you guys can share any projects that you've created. But without any further ado, let's get started. Oh, and for today's, for my morning live, you guys, I'm not looking at the comments because if you know me, you know I'm squirrely. So I want to stay focused. So I won't be looking at the comments. But if you are on Facebook, I'm able to go back and review the comments. I know there's a way to do it on YouTube, but I haven't figured it out yet. And on Instagram, I can't see the comments once it's done. So you can wait until the replay goes up and you can put the comments there and then I can answer, or you can just message me. That's a way too. So today, you guys, I'm going to show you guys what we're working with today. And don't laugh at me. My husband bought me this insanely huge tin of cookies this Christmas. And I mean, it's huge, this lid. And so this is what the lid looked like before. And so I've done some prep work for the sake of time this morning. So I'll show you guys where we're at right now and what I've done. I didn't want my the ledge to be like black. So I used a really dark, it's kind of a putty brown spray paint. And then of course I have used a white primer on the inside. I did scuff sand this one a little bit before I started painting. And that's just scuffing off any of the shininess so that I could guarantee that I have really good adhesion. So that's how I prepped this piece. The two pieces that I was considering for this was this one, which is the, oh Lord, I always forget the name of this one. This is like a project block. So you get two designs on one sheet, and it has I think it's typography grain sack, or I can't remember the name. I'm sorry, y'all. I'm fired. If there are any recycle retailers in the places, you guys can help me out maybe and tell me the name. And if you are a recycled retailer, be sure and leave your link in the comments so customers can find you to buy paper. If you're looking for recycled decoupage paper, you can find it at roycycled.com. You can either buy direct or you can find the retailers who carry it. So you may have a shop in your area. But I settled on this paper. This is our spring design, one of the spring designs from last year. And this one is a project block. So it has 4 distinct designs on it. So you kind of get 4 pieces for the price of one in this one sheet. Not kind of, you do. So you have these two. You guys will recognize our bunny from the can that we did earlier this week, if you were on that live. And then you also have these two. And the one I want to use today is actually, oh yeah, I settled on this one right here. So I'm going to go ahead and trim this one out. I always like to trim my paper right away, so I can get the extra paper off of my table. That way I'm less likely to like get paint on it or, you know, have it ruin what I'm actively trying to do. So I'm just going to trim this piece off. And even after I use this one block, I still have 3 full blocks that I can use for other projects. So now this one is like a really pretty landscape. And oh, let me see if I can help you guys. I'm gonna put it upside down. A really pretty landscape, and you can see that there are some sheep there. And so one of the things I wanted to talk about this morning was color. When I was trying to figure out which spray paint I wanted to use, I knew I wanted a dark color and I didn't want it to be black. And so when I was figuring out what color I wanted, I looked in the back of here. Sometimes when you guys look at these designs online, you really don't see the full designs. There's stuff on here that's really hard to communicate through the camera, but there is a texture. Can you guys see that in the background of this design? And in the back of that texture, there is a dark color. And so even though these aren't like the exact same color, they are like the same tone. So tonally, these two match. So I'm going to choose that color. And then I'm also going to pull in a really pretty green that I can pick up in these trees right here, um, in the background here. And then, of course, I'm going to go over the very top with a creamy white. And that's just going to be around the ledge here. That's what we're going to do. And so sometimes when you're looking at something and you're trying to figure out what colors to choose, I learned this years ago from Martha Stewart. If you can find a color in your design that isn't like the loudest and you choose that color, it's going to make your project look more designed. So rather than me choosing maybe this color that's everywhere, I'm going to find a color that's just a little bit in here. Even that pink is really prominent, so I wouldn't necessarily pick that pink. But this green is just barely there, or maybe even there's some little gold here in the grass. That would be really beautiful with this as well. So I'm going to set this aside though, because we're going to do our painting first. So today I'm going to be using, I spray painted this already. I am going to be using some chalk style paint for the green, and then I'm going to use the milk paint on top of it. I'm going to be honest with y'all, I don't know what's going to happen, but we're going to see together, because we know that where experimentation goes, creativity follows, right? So we don't always have to know exactly what's going to happen. Sometimes it's fun just to experiment. And again, I'm being very intentional about not mentioning brands while I'm doing these, because I want to make it easy for my retailers to be able to share these and not have to worry about promoting a brand that they may not necessarily carry. So I'm going to go over this with the green first. So I have the brown, that's my first layer, right? And then I'm going to go over with the green chalk style paint on top. And the reason why I'm saving my decoupage to last, because I want to reduce the odds of my getting paint on my paper by just putting it on the very last. If I need to put more white down, that's easy. But if I get paint on my paper, I'm going to be sad. So this is just a really soft green. And this isn't even going to be the main color. This will just be one of the colors that'll peek through when we distress this piece. And I know you guys think I'm crazy, but stick with me. This is going to be super cute when we're done. Y'all see this big old tin? David brought me enough sugar cookies to last me probably till July. And that's exactly what he said too. So I took all my cookies out and I put them in a Ziploc bag so I could seal the top to that tin. You guys should give me some ideas on what I could do with the bottom of this tin, because I stole the lid, but the bottom is still there. And it has to be an idea like without a lid, because I'm already stole the lid today. And I'm being pretty careful because I do want it to look nice and neat, but I just did not want to be beholden to perfection and worry about the paper getting wet. So And I'm just cutting in around this ledge with my brush. And this coat doesn't have to be perfect, right? Because we're only going to see it if we distress back to this. I am going to go over it with some heat because this is a chalk style paint and I don't want it to reactivate when I go over it with my next layer. So I'm not going to just dry this. I'm actually going to use the heat of my dryer to set it in place so it doesn't move. I need it to behave. Okay, so I'm going to dry that. And hopefully, I always forget about my vertical camera. I should put tape on my table that tells me like where I need to be because I get busy and I forget. If you guys are curious, because we've been working a lot with metal and decoupaging metal this week, and you guys have seen me decoupage wood, we've done plastic. If you would like information on like what precautions or approaches you should take when decoupaging different surfaces, you can put, if you're on YouTube, I mean, if you're on Facebook, you can put hashtag surface in the comments, all one word, and I will send you a link for you to grab that resource. And it's like a quick view of like, if you're decoupaging metal, this is how you want to prep it. These are the things you want to think about. If you're decoupaging plastic, you know. So it's information to help you in your creative journey. And I do have those quite often. And if you're on YouTube, you can check back because I will be putting a link in the comments once I'm done here. I'll go back into the video and I'll add some more information, including the list of supplies that we use here today and a resource that you guys can grab that will help you figure out like what steps to take to ensure your success when you're decoupaging different surfaces. Plastic, glass, wood, metal, just things to think about to make sure that you don't have any issues. I'd rather have you guys learn from my mistakes than for you guys to go through it yourself. And anything I teach mostly is because I had a boo boo and I'm like, oh, I better make sure people know this so that they don't do that too. I'm just going back in. I do want to kind of have full coverage here. Um, and I had some spots that were peeking through. When you're painting, you know how sometimes you'll paint and your surface looks like you have full coverage. And then once it dries, you see like the background peeking through. What happens is as the paint dries, it shrinks. And so sometimes when you think you have full coverage, you really want to look again after it dries because if your paint's done any shrinking, your background may be peeking through the paint in some places. So even paints that give you really good coverage, even if you go through and just do like a spot coverage, you know, like a go through it and just kind of lay down spots to cover those places. You may not have to do like a full second coat, but you'll want to inspect it and make sure that you don't have anything peeking through once the paint dries. Okay, so our green is dry, and now we're going to go in with some white milk paint. I tried to mix this a little thicker, but I think I may have mixed it too thick. Let me see. I've noticed with the milk paint, it's interesting. When you add your water, you really want to let it sit for a few minutes before you add more water because it may seem like really thick at first, but I don't know if as all the milk paint gets wet, maybe it dispels some of the water. I don't know what happens, but I noticed that after my paint sits for a few minutes, it'll like it gets looser than it is when I'm first trying to stir it. So if you're trying to make sure it's a little thicker, mix it and let it sit for a little bit and see what happens, and then stir it again before you add more water. And for those of you who use milk paint a lot, you guys probably already know all this stuff, don't you? So I'm just using my brush, and I'm going to go right over that green with this really pretty creamy um, white milk paint. And I could have done all this without you guys, but like then you wouldn't have seen the whole project. And so my goal with this is to make it in a message board. So this is metal, right? So I'll show you guys what I've done with some ILD molds and some magnets in order to create magnets for our board. And you see how that green isn't moving? I mean, you can see it peeking through the white, but it's not mixing with the white. And it's because the heat of my dryer really helped to set that paint. Now, if you're using a clay-based paint and you want to make sure that it doesn't move, you probably want to put a layer of top coat over the clay. And I don't know if this milk paint is going to crackle more or less over the chalk style paint. I'm curious to see what happens. My husband is dragging me away today to go do something fun in Tucson, which is our neighboring, it's like the biggest town closest to us. Um, so when I leave here today, I have to go in the house and you know, get dressed up, which, you know, when I say dressed up, I mean like dressed for public, not like dressed up. So I'm going to shoot this with some heat, and then I want to put a second coat on because I don't quite have full coverage. I'll show you guys in a few minutes. That green is still peeking through pretty strongly, and I really want this top layer to be white. And while I'm drying this, you guys, I'm going to ask you guys to watch a video. I know some of you have seen this video a couple of times already, but it's really short. It's less than a minute. If you've been craving time just for you, time to create, to breathe, to reconnect with who you are, I want to personally invite you to the 2026 Recycled Besties Retreat. We're gathering in beautiful downtown Safford, Arizona for 3 days of creativity, connection, and rest. All your creative supplies are provided, breakfast and lunch are taken care of, and you'll even receive exclusive recycled retreat only goodies. We are already over halfway full, so if your heart's been whispering maybe, this is your moment to say yes. Click the link to claim your seat. I would love to meet you here. If you guys are looking for an opportunity to really connect with other creatives personally, like, in the flesh, this is a really wonderful opportunity. I uploaded a couple. I couldn't get any more done. I just try to get too much stuff done in one day, you guys. But these are testimonials from a couple of people who came to the retreat, Miss Sandra. And the project that we did, I really, my goal is to push you out of your comfort zone, right? And to really test you, not test you, but to challenge you to create in a way that you wouldn't normally do. Because it's in those places of stretching that we grow creatively, right? So Sandra just said that she didn't think that she would ever be able to make the thing that she ended up doing. And then one of the things that I pride myself on with my retreat is that when you come to our little town, you're not just being hosted by Royce, you are literally being like hosted by the entire town. And Dorothy kind of speaks to that. And one of the comments that she left about the retreat is that everyone was really hosted by the whole town. So when you walk around and you go into the restaurants, people recognize, especially if you have like a Royce t-shirt on, then they know why you're here. And we have restaurants and shops that are giving special discounts to the Royce Cycle Besties who are here in town that weekend as well. So if you are interested in finding out more information about the Recycle Besties retreat, you can put hashtag retreat if you are on Facebook and you'll get a message. And then if you are on YouTube or Instagram, here's a QR code that you can use. And it just takes you to the page where you can find out more information about the retreat. And I was talking to David last night and I forgot. So, a couple of ladies who came to my retreat last year, I actually met them at Pinners. And I forgot, if you've ever gone to Pinners, like seriously, you know that every year you get a new pin on your lanyard. So, we're going to start that tradition this year. So, you guys will have pins to put on your aprons this year. And then I don't know if I'm going to get pins made for last year. I said I was going to, but I'm running out of time. So we'll see what happens. But at the very least, if you come this year, you'll have a pin to commemorate this year's event, as well as your apron that you get in your swag bag and your custom stencil and your custom paper. When I say custom, I mean I'm designing these just for the retreat, specifically for the retreat. So they won't be available anywhere else. And we'll sell extras. Last year, I think we said you could buy 5 extra because I don't want somebody to like buy a ton and try to sell them outside of the retreat because then that like undermines the whole intent of it. So you get 1 free in your swag bag, and then if you want, you can buy up to 5 additional. And the price does include breakfast and lunch, and not like jacked up breakfast and lunch either, like really good breakfast and lunch from our local restaurants who cook using real ingredients. And our continental breakfast is actually from our local bakers. So it's not like Safeway pastries. We're actually going to our local bakeries and buying and bringing over to the venue. And last year she made us some quiche. They were so good. You guys can see I'm not being like super dainty because I want this to be a little distressed. But I do want to get a nice coat on that. And then we're going to dry this. Um, and then I will touch up my paint and we'll decoupage. And then I think that with that design, I'm going to need some crackle. What do you guys think? I'm thinking yes. I'm thinking my answer is always going to be yes to crackle, pretty much. Let's see. It's 12:27. See, there's no way I could do a 20-minute craft. I just don't think so. I mean, I could, but it would be boring, right? I want to dry this just enough so that I can touch it. It doesn't have to be completely dry. Although this is metal, whenever you're using or you're painting wood, you have to kind of contend with the wood absorbing some of your product, and then that moisture kind of gets trapped in there. So at least when you're working with metal and it dries, it's like dry. I put it on a little bit thicker, hoping that I would get some more cracking. Oh, there it goes. I have noticed with the milk paint, if I put it on thicker, I'm more likely to get the crackle than if I put thinner coats on. I think that's dry enough. I'm drying it and I'm also applying heat so I can get more crackle. So that's why it's taking me a little bit more time. It's probably safe for me to touch it at this point, but y'all know I'm not satisfied. I want some of that crackle. And I think why the heat gives you more crackle is because um, I always think about like why things happen and I have to explain it. So if you're wondering why, that's why. Because I have to know why. So I'm assuming you want to know why. But underneath here, so the dryer is has dried the top layer, right? But underneath it's gonna dry slower. So when I blast it with that heat, I have the product drying at different rates, and it's that difference that's causing the crackling because we know it's contracting when it's drying, right? And it's expanded when it's wet. So if it's like expanding and drying at different rates and they're right on top of each other, that's how we get that really beautiful crackle there. So I'm going to leave that and I'm going to touch up just a little bit. And I'm going to show you guys, I'm going to try to show you. You can see that there's a white milk paint and I do have some crackling that's going on in the paint. Just a wee bit. And I actually didn't get too much paint on the middle. I'm kind of happy about that. And I had used some white primer, but I think I'm just going to touch up with some paint. I don't think it has to be primer for the touch up because the primer's already done its job, right? And because my paper is lighter, I am going to go in and apply a whole nother like coat of paint. If this were a darker paper, I wouldn't worry about it as much because you really wouldn't be able to see through to the background quite as much. But because we're using a lighter design, I do want my background to be like a solid white. And on one of our projects, we're gonna experiment with underpainting because I always say to paint white, and that's like a general rule. But you can play with your underpainting to create different effects. So I'm thinking tomorrow we'll do a clipboard and we'll play with some underpainting for that project. I'm gonna try to make it quick. We'll see what happens. And if you're just popping on, I am just taking a lid from my absolutely ginormous cookie tin that my husband bought for me this holiday, and I am making a little mini message board, a magnetic message board. And we're using recycled decoupage paper with milk paint and chalk paint. If you're looking for the recycled decoupage paper, you can find it at roycycle.com, or you can find the retailers who actually carry it. So you may have a shop near you in your community where you can go in and see the paper, or there may be an online retailer who's closer to you than I am, and they can offer you a better shipping rate. And if you are live and you're a Royce Cycles retailer, please put the link to your shop so customers can find you. And I believe a little bit over here. I want to make sure everything is dry because if I have a little spot that's wet, then I end up with like a white spot on my paper, which is not optimum. So this is one square. I'm working with the recycled frame project blocks from last year, and you get 4 distinct designs on this paper. And so we're actually using just one of the squares for today, which means I have 3 more project blocks to create significant size projects. But we're going to use this one today. I just have to decide what portion I want to display. And I'm going to try to center it, but I'm going to eyeball it. Oh yeah, I think that's good. We're going to go there. And I'm just taking my fingernail and running it around the lip, like the bottom lip of the can, so that I can mark the paper. That way I know exactly where I want to trim or exactly where it's going to fit. I'm not going to trim it exactly. I always like to leave myself an extra little bit of paper just in case I did something wrong or I miscalculated or, you know, something. And I can always go back in and trim this later. And I think that one of these mornings, we're going to bring in all of our projects and trim them together because most of the time I'm not able to trim with the razor blade with you guys because the project still has moisture. And you really do want to wait until your project is absolutely dry before you try to use a razor blade to trim to ensure that you get a nice clean trim. So we have all these pieces that we've been working on, and I have a few of them that need to be trimmed. So maybe one of these mornings I'll pull all of them out and we'll trim them together because there are different things to think about depending on how or like where your paper needs to be trimmed. So we're going to decoupage this right inside this square. And I'm going to mist my paper. The reason I'm misting my paper is because the water is going to let the paper relax. So all the fibers in the paper are going to relax and stretch out so that when it comes into contact with the decoupage medium, it doesn't respond and you don't get wrinkles. The reason why you get wrinkles generally is because the paper starts wrinkling when it comes into contact with the moisture of your decoupage medium. So we're kind of creating that problem in advance so it doesn't happen when we start decoupaging. Now, I've trimmed my paper more than what I need. So when I am decoupaging, I'm going to make sure to get product only where I want it. I don't want any extra product on the side where I don't want my paper to stick. And I wish I had one of my smaller brushes, but I used it for wax yesterday. So let me see. Oh, I have one right here. Maybe. Maybe. I think this might be my crackle brush because it feels kind of stiff. We'll go with it though. So today I am going to be using, what do I have? I'm just using a water-based varnish is what I'm using to decoupage with today. And you can use whatever you have on your craft table is perfectly fine to decoupage. It's just a matter of preference and what you have, right? Because you don't have to always go out and buy the new thing. Um, So if you have like chalk paints or clay-based paints on your craft table, you're more likely to have like a clear coat or a top coat or a sealer, a water-based one. And that's perfect for both adhesion, like to adhere your paper and to seal your paper. If you are someone who has primarily acrylic products on your table, then you can use acrylic medium, a matte medium, soft gel, to decoupage with. And if you are someone who has like primarily like craft paint and Mod Podge, then you can use that Mod Podge to decoupage with. I do like to add a little water to it. With the tissue paper, this tissue paper is an 18-pound tissue paper, so it's a little heavier than regular tissue paper. But with the Mod Podge, it can be a little tacky and stick to the paper right away. So if you need to reposition or something, you really don't have that option. But if you add a little water to your Mod Podge, then it kind of loosens up that tackiness a little bit so that you can have a lot more freedom to be able to reposition your paper if you need to. So I'm going to start on this side. And like I said, I'm being super careful not to get any of um, my clear coat on the side of the can because I only want my paper to stick to the bottom. And I'm going to create a starter row here. And what this is going to do, this serves as an anchor for my paper, so that once it adheres to the surface, I don't have to worry about it becoming like reoriented or moving in a way that disrupts my original intent. And I always look from the side to make sure that I covered all the places. A lot of times, if you have bubbles in your decoupage paper after the fact, It's because there was a spot that didn't have any product. Look, I have a whole place right there that's completely dry. That would have been a bubble if I hadn't looked from the side to look. So it's crazy because sometimes you're like, surely I've had full coverage. I've run my brush over the whole thing, but then you look from the side and no, no, you do not because there's an area that's wet. And my paper's kind of dried while I've been yapping. So I'm just going to mist it again, is all. No big deal. And we can move on to the rest. And when I'm rubbing, I want to make sure that I have good contact between the paper and the surface. And because I'm using the misting method, I don't have to go so slow when I'm decoupaging. So I'm going to go ahead and do the rest of this. Now that my starter row is done, I know my paper is going to go down the way I want it to. And when you're using the misting method to decoupage, you do want to put down a little bit more of the decoupage medium than maybe you're used to putting down. Not too much. You don't want to have a puddle, but because then you'll get weird ripples, but a little bit extra. And again, I'm going to look from the side and make sure I've covered everywhere. And I'm always amazed because every time I do that, I always find a spot that didn't have any product on it. And if I hadn't taken the time to look, then I would have ended up with a bubble in my decoupage, which is not optimum. You see how I'm able to lift my paper there and kind of reposition it? It's because this is a heavier tissue paper. So it's still tissue paper, so I have to be careful, but it's heavier than, say, the tissue that you use to wrap gifts with. And it's certainly heavier than napkins. And then I'm going to go right over the top of this. With my varnish. And how much time is it? Do I have time to put crackle? I think so. I think we need some fine line crackle on top of this paper, don't you guys? I do have some wrinkles in my paper because I was yapping and I let my paper dry, but I think we're okay. And if you have little small wrinkles, like don't stress because chances are they'll go away once the paper dries. As the paper like stretches back to its original shape, um, those wrinkles will like get stretched out. So I'm gonna dry this. Oh, I don't even have my fine line crackle. I think it's over there. We'll dry this and then we'll find our crackle. Now, while I'm drying this, I do want to take a few minutes to talk about the magnets. So I've taken some IOD molds, and what I've done is just glued some magnets onto the back of them. And so these are just pieces from different molds that I've chosen to use here to make my magnets, right? And I painted them gold. And for the larger pieces, I did put two magnets on the back. And I would use E6000 glue to glue my magnets on my pieces. But like you don't have to use gold, right? These are some pieces that we made in the recycled membership. We were playing with air dry clay and we used resin over the top of these to make them look like fired clay. And so I was thinking I put some magnets on the on the back of these or whatever. Like, and again, just because I present a project in a specific style, maybe this isn't your style, doesn't mean that you have to use like this paper and you have to use these products. You can always tweak the details to fit your personal aesthetic, right? And this one, do I want to do this fine line crackle before I trim it? I don't even have my razor blade out. Okay, that's pretty dry. Again, I don't like to trim until it's like absolutely dry. Um, so we're gonna take a chance, and we're gonna put the fine line crackle on, and then I'll trim it later. It does not seem like a good idea, but it's kind of where we're at. And I'm going around the edges. Any edge that picks up, I'm gonna go down with my brush and just put some more product down there. I kind of want to trim this. Let me see if I can find my, I don't even know where it is, my blade. Whenever you're trimming your decoupage paper, there's a couple of things that you want to think about. And I mean, we trim it with a sanding block and we know how to do that. But if you're going to be using like a blade to trim, you really want your paper to be completely dry. If your paper is wet, it is simply not going to trim cleanly because it's going to tear, right? Instead of trimming. And you want to use a really sharp blade. And I feel like, though, if I had to choose between using a really sharp blade or using my, like trimming it when my paper was dry, I would choose trimming when my paper is dry. Because even if your paper is completely dry and maybe your blade isn't like super sharp, you're still more likely to get a nice clean trim than you would be trying to use a really sharp blade with wet paper or moist paper. Because this is metal, I'm thinking that it's probably pretty dry, but I guess we will see. And I'm just taking my blade, and what I'm going to do is there's a lip on here, and I'm going to use this lip to guide my blade. So rather than me trying to go straight down like this and hoping I get it straight, I'm actually going to use the side of this to guide my blade so that I know it's going to be straight all the way around. And you guys will notice my blade is sideways and it's facing the side. And I'm pulling my paper and making sure that it's all the way to the side as well. Because if my paper is like over here and I trim it, I take a chance of trimming it short. So whenever I'm trimming, see, that's going to tear because there's a little wet spot right there. I can see it already. That's wet too. So where it's dry, it's going to trim super clean. But anywhere where there's moisture hidden in there, it's just not going to trim well. And for some reason, there's a lot of moisture over there. Maybe I didn't hit that part with the dryer. And the only reason why I'm attempting to trim this is because if I put a layer of the fine line crackle, I'm not sure how that's going to play out if I have to go in and trim it later. And I really do want to put some fine line crackle on it. And again, I'm not looking at the comments right now, you guys, because I'm trying to stay focused. I really do want to be able to complete our projects from start to finish each morning. And I should put Royce Hunt craft with Royce start to finish instead of quick. My intention originally was to do quick crafts, but it hasn't really played out that way. But if you have to leave or pop off, you can always come back and watch the replay. You guys see I'm taking my time, right? You do want to put a significant amount of force down so that you can cut through your paper in one. I mean, it's not the end of the world if you have to go back over again, but you're more likely to get like a split trim where you have like one line where you went through with your first pass and then a different line when you go in with your second pass. So I usually try to push hard enough so that I get a clean trim the first time. And you guys will notice that my blade is always facing away from me, never towards me. A, so I can see where I'm cutting, and B, for safety. Safety first, right? My children used to make fun of me when they were like preteens. Safety first, safety first. All righty. So I was able to get a pretty good, nice trim there. And okay, so I'm gonna go grab the fine line crackle. You guys don't go anywhere. Talk among yourself. I'll be right back. I'm gonna put my mic right here so I'll remember to put it back on. Oh, I found it. Okay, so we're gonna start with step number one first. And it's really important that you have a clean, dry brush when you lay it down, which may be a problem for me today. I'm gonna have to use this little brush. This one's kind of scratchy. And I'm gonna lay this down pretty generously, not too thick, but I do want it to be generous. Oh, I got a little bit of lifting going on. I'll just use that to tack it down. And it goes on kind of cloudy, but it's going to dry clear. I have a theory about crackle, and I have no scientific backing to say that it's true, but this is my theory. I feel like when you do like one long stroke, that the cracks are going to form along the thick portions of that paint stroke. And so you're going to get like longer crackle that follow that. But if you put down shorter cross hatch strokes, then you're going to get like shorter um, crackle, if that makes sense. And for me personally, I don't like those long lines of crackle. I prefer the the smaller ones. And so if I look a little erratic, that's what I'm doing. And again, I have no scientific, explanation of that or why it would be true, but in my mind, In my holy imagination, that's how it works. So lay that down. And then when you're laying it down, it's okay for you to have some areas that are thick and some areas that are thinner. If you look at an old oil painting, the crazing isn't like perfectly uniform across the whole thing, right? It's kind of, there's more in some places and less than others. So um, sometimes we expect perfection when we are like literally trying to imitate what it looks for something to be aged and distressed, and it's not going to be perfect or uniform, right? Lord have mercy for Jesus. It's 12:55. How time flies when you're having fun, I guess. And can I tell y'all a secret? So I'm live, right? And I'm doing these videos every day and I'm talking to you guys because I know you guys are there. But like honest to God, even if you guys weren't here, I would probably still be talking to myself almost as much. Nobody listens better than I do. And I know somebody is thinking this is a lot of trouble to go through for a cookie tin lid. But once it goes up on your wall, nobody knows that that's what it is. And to me, that's the beauty of it. Whenever I'm thrifting, I'm always looking at things for their form, not necessarily like what they are or what their intended purpose is. I'm looking at it just as, the shape of it and what it could be. I'm getting a bubble right there. And I'm going to dry this pretty good, but I got to be careful because if I get my dryer too close to my paper, then it doesn't like it. So if you're doing this at home, just like chill and let it dry because you're not going to be in a hurry like me, right? So you can just let yours dry without trying to make it. Although I do think when you put the second layer on and you go in with the heat, that you do get more cracks. I have like a whole area right there that I didn't put anything on. So I'm going to cover that just so it's all the same sheen. I'm probably not going to get crackle right there, but that's fine. Okay, it's dry to touch. And for number two, I want to make sure that I shake it. I don't want to shake it too much because I don't want to get bubbles in it, but I do want to make sure that all the stuff is mixed up in there really well. And I usually get a whole nother brush, but I do not have another brush, so we're gonna cheat. Oh Lord, I don't want to wet this, so I'm just gonna wipe the first stuff off of there. And then I'm gonna go in with my second coat. If you guys see tape on my table tomorrow, just know that it's so that I will stay where I'm supposed to stay on the table so that you guys can see everything I'm doing on the screen. Because sometimes I get wrapped up in the project and I forget. And I know some of my regulars are like, Royce is using fine line crackle on everything. I know. I love it. I like it a lot. I remember in the 1980s, like pink and green were just like it right? But there really is a classic combination. And that's what I feel like is the basic color scheme here is the pink and green. I think I got it everywhere. Even if I have an area where I miss, I think I'm okay. And we're going to apply some heat and some crackle, and then we're going to apply some wax, and then we'll be done. And then I'm going to show you guys how I'm going to hang this. I don't want to leave you guys hanging just thinking it's just like a can lid, and you got to figure it out. If you are new to Royce and you want to learn more about decoupage, check out roycycledacademy.com. Or if you go to roycycle.com, you'll see a tab that says Learn, and you can click that, and it'll take you to Royce Academy as well. And over there, I have a decoupage with confidence course. And inside of that course, we go over the basics of decoupage, but I also teach some pretty advanced decoupage methods as well. And it really helps you to be able to create some pretty awesome stuff. I know that decoupage, like at the most basic form, is just gluing paper to surfaces, but there's so much you can do with it. I really do love decoupage a lot. I like it a lot. I always have a moment where I panic because the crackle isn't crackling and then it starts crackling. I'm hoping that's what's going to happen because I'm not getting a lot of crackle. But I'm going to just believe that it's coming. And it may come when I leave it because I'm not seeing a lot of crackle. But I'm applying. Oh, there you go. See, every time I lose faith, it shows up. That's how the Lord works, isn't it? You just have to know that you know that you know that all things work together for our good, right? Okay. Oh, it's so yummy, you guys. I put a little too much right there in the middle, but it's okay. It's supposed to look old. And I'm going to distress the edges just a little bit to see if I can get some of the green in that putty brown to kind of peek through a little bit. And then we're going to mix everything all together. It is so good. I put down too much right there. I have like a puddle. That's going to be weird. Don't leave puddles on your stuff, okay? Don't do that. And I have a bubble right there. That is so weird. You guys want to solve a problem really quickly? So I have right here a bubble. I don't even know why it's there because I know I put down enough product. So I am going to cut that open with my little blade right here. And I'm going to cut it along this frame to help me kind of hide that line a little bit. I'm being a little sneaky. And I'm hopefully going to be able to go in there and look at, I hid my line so well, I can't find it. Because that bubble is bothering me. And I'm sure it happened because I was adding heat, but I want to make sure. So I'm going to go in and just add a little product right under that lip right there. And honestly, if I had like some gel medium or Mod Podge, I'd probably use that because it's a little bit tackier. But just because I put all this other stuff on top, but I think I'm good. I think I'm good. So now my bubble is gone. So that's one way that you can address a bubble if you get a bubble in your project. No one will ever know. Except that now my sheen is different right there. I'm going to do this. And I'm not even doing this for the crackle. I'm just doing it so that it's the same sheen as everything else. And I don't have like a dull spot right there because that varnish is matte. Okay, much better. I was talking, so I have a Royce Cycles Besties membership, and we meet once a week. We craft together, and then we visit for like an hour. Like we literally craft and then we visit. And one of my besties was like, I just love listening to your like thought process. I'm like, it's a scary place inside of here. I think you guys aren't like in here. You just get a little peek in here. So I'm pretty sure all that is dry. So let's do a little bit of distressing, and I'm just going to use water and my towel here that I need to take inside and wash it at this point because it has like so much stuff on it. And I'm just misting water because that's the water that I have, right? And I want my towel to be pretty wet because I don't want to have to apply a lot of pressure. I'm going to go over this pretty softly because I want my wear to be, I don't know, soft. I don't want it to look like really sharp. You could use a sanding block, but it is a different look, right? I think when you use wet distress, it's a softer distressing. And I was just curious to see what would happen with the milk paint if I put it over chalk style paint. Um, and all of our other projects this week, I've been using milk paint over milk paint. I will say that because that green is set, that I'm not getting any of the dark from underneath the green, right? Because the green isn't moving anymore. So that's just something to think about. I could reach it if I were to use a sanding block, but I'm not going to be able to get it from wet distress. So we're just going to pretend I never wanted to do that. And if you get to the point where you stop, the paint like stops lifting, to me, I would rather add more water and continue, you know, using a soft motion and maintaining more control than start using a lot of pressure. Because when you use a lot of pressure, you just lift up a lot of paint, it feels like at once. And of course, you can do as little or as much as you want. I'm always looking for balance, right? I don't want to have like a bunch of distressing in one place and none in another, even though I know, it's supposed to be organic, but okay. So we have our decoupage, we have our little bit of distress, so we see the green through there. And let's add, I put all my wax away. Do I want to add wax? What do you guys think? Do I want to grunge it up a lot or a little? Because I can't see your comment. If I can get to my wax without taking off the mic. I think just to be safe, I'm going to do a little bit of clear wax. When I am using wax, and I've already sealed everything, not the milk paint, but the paper is sealed, right? So it's protected. So the wax is really just decorative, which is it's fine. I get the protection of the top coat, and I get the beautiful finish of the wax. So it's like the best of both worlds. And I'm just going to take and put on some of that clear wax. And this is just going to help me. This specific project, I don't want it to be really dark. And so the clear wax is going to control how much of the dark wax is absorbed. I can always add like more dark wax if I want, but I don't want to have this piece get dark really quickly because that's not the look I'm going for with this one. We did a lot of grunge. This is just like a different kind of grunge, right? And then I did bring another brush for my dark wax. I prefer round brushes when I'm waxing because I can get more organic like application than when I use something square. And if you're someone, because I know I had someone who said they teach a class at the senior center, like this project doesn't have to be a lid to a cookie tin. It could be like one of those round cookie sheets from Dollar Tree, right? And you could pretty much make the same thing. I'm trying to be good and clean as I go, you guys, because we just cleaned up the studio just before the new year. I told George I was going live every day. He's like, "Oh no, Miss Royce, we just cleaned." I know. I'm behaving. I used to batch videos and I'd record like 5 videos in a day and it would just be trashed in here by the time I was done. So ridiculous. So pretty. I just love the crazing that you get. And I'm going to wait. I'm not going to go over this with the varnish right now because I want to make sure everything is dry really well. And I may actually get more crackling um, as it dries. So I'm going to see if I can show you guys. You guys see that crazing? Isn't that beautiful? I just love that so much. And so now, let me make sure I do it right. I have, oh Lord, what did I do with it? Did you guys see what I did with my little hook? Oh. I drop it. I have a little tab, and it's a sticky tab with a hook on it. Oh, there it is. That I'm going to put on the back of this. So make sure I put it in the right place. And I just got these off of Amazon. I wish they had like smaller ones, but I bought 2 now, thinking I was going to get like, the hook would be smaller. And both packs came in with these huge hooks on them. So it is what it is. But I'm going to make sure that I'm in the right place. And I'm going to hook that like right here so that I can hang this on the wall, right? And it'll stay. I maybe should have cut that and moved it up a little bit. It's too late now. It's on there. So I have my little hook on here. I can hang this. And then I have my little magnets that I can put on here. So if I want to leave David a little nub note, I can do that. What do you guys think? I think it's so pretty. And of course, this isn't my personal style, but I know that some of you like shabby chic or like, I don't know, different style. So I thought I would do something light and bright and springy for today's craft. Thank you guys so much for joining me today. I hope you guys enjoyed this. Remember, if you're on Facebook, you can leave a comment. And if you have a question, I'll answer it the best I can. If you're on YouTube, if you'll just wait and come back and pop a question in, I'll come back and answer it because for some reason I can't see the live ones, the live questions. And same thing on Instagram. Everything goes away as soon as I come off of live. So, but I will be here tomorrow morning. I'm thinking we're going to do the clipboard tomorrow and we're going to play with some underpainting. So, what you can do underneath your decoupage paper to kind of change the way your paper looks and the outcome of your project. But you guys remember where experimentation goes, creativity follows. So be sure and experiment and play this week. Thank you guys so much for joining me, and I will see you tomorrow. Have a blessed day.